Thank you very much, Concordia, and I'd like to thank everyone for the many comprehensive and well thought out contributions from across the floor. I think it has been a very good start to the journey, the legislative journey through the Dáil and through the Seanad, and I certainly will take on board the various contributions that people made today. It has been a while in gestation, and I want to acknowledge the pioneering role my previous colleague as Fianna Fáil spokesperson in agriculture had, Deputy Eamon O'Keefe, in relation to really driving this issue, working with the then committee, putting it on the agenda of the then Committee of Agriculture at the time, and the work that was put in by all on that Agriculture Committee in relation to putting that report together. And when I took over as Fianna Fáil spokesperson in agriculture from Deputy O'Keefe in 2016, I drove on in terms of making sure this was a key priority, and was delighted then working with the three parties in government to ensure that it was part of the programme for government commitments, and indeed over the last 2 years to bring it through the consultation process, working with stakeholders, working with the farming representatives in particular, and then working with the Agriculture and Food Committee in terms of pre-legislative scrutiny. And I want to recognise the work that was done by all, and the Chairman, Jackie Callan, but all the members, many of whom spoke here today, at Agriculture and Committee in relation to looking at in great detail the proposals in this legislation and bringing the various understandings and perspectives and backgrounds and knowledge to the table, and in putting a quite comprehensive pre-legislative scrutiny report to me then, in which significantly contributed to the process of the bill coming here today and to the bill that I presented before the House now today as well. And of the 20 proposals and recommendations made by the Agriculture, Food and Marine Committee, I have accepted 18 of those 20, either absolutely fully or very much along the lines of what was proposed, 18 of the 20. So listen, I will now, in terms of going back to committee stage, engage further. Obviously, I've given it a lot of thought already in relation to the various proposals, and I know all parties at the committee work together to come to a clear consensus in relation to how it could be enhanced, and I have taken that very much on board, because the objective here now is to ensure that in terms of the regulator office that we set up, that it works, that it does the job that we have been seeking, that does the job we have wanted to put it in place for, and that it works very effectively. And I think there's undoubtedly a gap in the overall infrastructure of the agri-food supply chain and the sector, which this office will fill and will meet the need of, because there needs to be the capacity to have transparency across the food supply chain, and an independent arbiter that's on a statutory basis and that has the heft and the credibility to be able to assess an issue, dissect it, get the key information, and explain it without fear or favour in a way that brings transparency to what's happening. And of course, it's not as, I was having a bit of an engagement with Deputy Tobin here earlier on, because he was making out that it's simply a matter of set what the price is and don't sell it for any less, and it's as straightforward and as simple as that. And if you just had the will to set a price, then it'd all be grand. But of course, listen, we're a very fortunate country in that we're a great food producing country, but 90% of what we produce and what comes out of our farms goes abroad and is sold in markets as disparate as, from Senegal to Singapore to China. So it's the markets abroad and the prices that we get abroad which very much determine the price. And you're working off international prices. You're obviously trying to get the best possible value for the great product that we have, maximising its value, marketing it, and continuing to improve it and enhance it. And of course, its sustainability as well as its nutrition and safety is central to that. And we're leading with any part of the world, and leading in terms of a food producer and the quality of what we do. And that enables us to maximise our capacity to maximise the price we get. But it is a price, in 90% of the cases, is end price that happens outside the country. But what we need to have is the transparency as to how that price that we get outside the country translates throughout the different layers of the supply chain, particularly then coming back to the layers within our own country and bringing transparency to that. And I think as it was Deputy O'Keefe said, compared it to the CCTV camera, the fact that there is eyes on you, that this is being watched and that we're alert to it and that we're making every effort possible to bring transparency will be very effective, I hope, in relation to ensuring that the fairest deal and farmers get the best crack in terms of the income that they get for the massive hard work that they do. Because there's no doubt in relation to the early hours, the long weekends, the late nights, that it goes in at farm level, and the amount of time that goes from whenever the lamb is born or the calf is born or the cow starts to milk to the point where that produce leaves the farm. There's massive work goes in there. There is work undoubtedly that goes in after that, important work too, but the time is less, and we have to ensure that the farmer, who very often, the primary producer, the fisher, the horticulturalist, that the situation where too often, where there's a squeeze in the system, they are the one that has to absorb all that pain, because the margins can be maintained at other levels of the supply chain because the capacity is there to manage that more so, and farmers ultimately get squeezed. And I think particularly in the year we've just had, coming out of unprecedented changes in terms of cost inputs and inflation emerging from the illegal invasion of Ukraine, it has spoken and it has very much brought to the fore the need to have responsive supply chains, a supply chain that moves with the reality of life and that reflects and understands the challenges that's there for the primary producer, and that doesn't leave them carrying the can in terms of the cost and losing money, while others can adjust to maintain their margin. So the real key objective here is putting in place a statutory office which will be an actor in that space, ensure that that space is as healthy as it possibly can, be an advocate, be a pusher, and be an enabler to ensure that farmers get fair play, and that family and primary producer incomes are very much at the centre of all of our thoughts. So, listen, thank you, Concordia, and thanks to all for the engagement today. Thanks again to Angela Robinson and Sinead McPhillips. We have a journey to go over the next short few weeks to bring this to conclusion. I look forward to engaging further to ensure that we have an office which will work very effectively. And as I said earlier on, the recruitment process in terms of the CEO has been significantly advanced as well. So we are continuing in relation to the work that we're doing, and also want to recognise as well the work that the staff in the Unfair Trading Practices office have carried out already in relation to enforcing and overseeing the unfair trading practices in the interim period, and continuing to do that until such time as we have the new statutory office in place. So, Gura Mayagud, John Corla.